Hey guys, so another video here just on topic. So one of the things I've been asked, I had made a video and it said that when I busted myths. And in that video, I had made the comment, that yes, you can be Christian and you can read tarot cards, which I have these out because I'm going to do another video series here in a few minutes. I'll get started on that. But I was asked, okay, well, how can you, how can you believe in both? Okay. So I think that backgrounds, culture, how you were brought up with, things that you've heard when you were brought up, the beliefs and traditions handed down from your own family, I think does influence some different things. So from that would be why not everybody can. Or feels, how do I want to explain it? Why some people feel that it's very wrong, I guess, would be the beliefs and things that they were taught. So I cannot speak for everybody else. When I say things that I believe, I just am doing so to share my personal experiences so that other people out there maybe would be like, oh, okay, this is okay. I'm not crazy for believing more than one thing. I hope that makes some sense. But how I can be so sure and so steadfast in my own beliefs about God, heaven, my own faith, is the life experiences that I've had. When I said about cultures being significant, I have one grandfather on my dad's side that was a founding father of a church. The stories that I have heard passed down was that he was not always a religious man, but there was something that happened within the family. And he was like, God, if this is healed, if this is okay, I will completely change my life around. And he did. On the other end of the spectrum, I have a grandfather, my mom's dad, who was always more nature-based, but he did have a very strong faith. So the grandfather on my mom's side, his grandmother was Native American. We have tried and tried throughout generations. My mom has tried, my aunts have tried, I have tried to find out exactly what tribe, I guess we would be considered, but all the records stop with her. Her name was Lodi. She was born in 1880. She was raised by white people, and so in all the census of the time, it actually says that she was white, and it says that because she was raised by white people. Now, I have old pictures of Lodi where you can very much so see that she was Native American. Same with my pap pictures that I have of my pap, especially in his later years, you can see the characteristics. So the records start with her. I have been able to research her mother, but things get very, very muddied. Records are different. Her parents, what's listed in her, the death report that's in the newspaper, the obituary, what's listed in that is completely different from other records that I have found. The cemetery her parents are supposed to be at, they're non-existent. It stops with her, basically. So I think that those beliefs were ingrained. Like my grandpa on my dad's side would go sit in the church, while my grandpa on my mom's side would go to the mountain to connect. So I think that's how different beliefs kind of can shape what you've learned. My family never really went to church. My grandma did, but when I was a child, we did not. However, there was always the beliefs were there and passed down. So I hope that makes sense. Now, when it comes to personal experiences, this is what really cemented for me. I have always been a caretaker. I've worked 34 years in healthcare. I'm not a nurse, but I was a nurse's aide for a period of time. I am now a technician. I ran with ambulance. And in some way or another, I was always a caretaker type role. So that has actually assisted me because I've had the great honor and privilege of taking care of some family members as they were getting close to passing, which we can go into another subject later. But as far like when that's another subject. I'm getting myself off track, and I apologize. Let's go with my grandpa on my mom's side. So he is the gentleman that would always go to the mountain. Okay, he actually had told me a story about church and why he did not choose to go to church. And it has to do with a gentleman who went and sat in the pews every day, and then actually said something to my grandfather that pissed him off royally. And he said the man was a complete hypocrite, and he did not go back to church after that. If he wanted to connect, he went to the mountain. When my grandfather was actively passing, if anybody has ever worked healthcare, there is a condition called mottling. It is where blood starts to pool to different areas. This isn't a health lesson or anything like that, so we're going to leave it at that. My grandfather is the only person I have ever in my entire life, and I've seen a lot of people who were getting ready to pass. My grandfather actually was modeling while he was sitting up having a cigarette, which was amazing. Spirits are real. He did explain to us about having coffee with the neighbor. The neighbor's name was also Jim, and he had been deceased for many, many years, but he told us that Jim came to see him, and they were having coffee together. My grandfather, there's a cupboard up in their house. It's an old house, and it was like a hidey hole cupboard. I don't know what you want to call it, but there were some things stored up there. From the time I was a kid, I had never, up until this point, seen that cupboard door open. And it had it's a wooden cupboard, and it had like you literally have to turn something in order to get this cupboard to open. We were all sitting at the table, and the cupboard door just opens, and my pap looks up, and he's like, huh. And he's like, Trace, get up there. There's some stuff I want to show you guys. Things that his father had made. And he wanted to look at them, and he wanted to just, look at them with all of us. The day before he passed, my grandpa was a Quaker. So my mom actually was pushing him with the wheelchair, and he was like pushing back, messing around, and then he would laugh, But then my grandpa very, very solemnly put his hands together, and he was going like this, and he was humming. And he goes, do you hear that? And we're like, no, what? Like, what do you hear? And he goes, the angels. I hear the angels. They're coming to take me home. After that experience, he was very, very restless, as will happen. And we literally watched my grandfather. We had him in a chair because he was so restless. Like, we would help him to lay down. We would put him in a chair. He was actively dying at this time. He was like in the chair, but his legs were moving like he was going up steps. He reached the top of the steps, and he went like this to a door handle. His eyes were closed, and he goes, they won't let me in yet. They won't let me in yet because somebody's not quite ready. So he goes, okay. And he put his hands back, and he just completely calmed down. The person who was not ready was my grandmother. Sometimes people need to hear that it's okay. We did help him to lay back down in bed. My grandmother said that she would be okay. It was okay for him to rest. And then he was ready. And he was able to pass peacefully. That's how I know from that experience, heaven is definitely real. Angels are real. And this is my belief system, but this is something that I personally witnessed with my own eyes. I was there. I experienced this. So that's why I have such a strong faith. Other people do not, and that's perfectly okay. I'm just saying it's okay to don't change your own beliefs to fit somebody else's narrative. I fully respect other religions as long as I do have a harm none type attitude. Yes, I practice different things, but I do still believe in God. That's how I believe in God. I have one more example and then I'll cut this video, since the purpose of this was to tell you and answer the question as to how I can have such a strong faith while I do ritual work, while I read tarot cards, while I do other things that would be considered witchy. And so I'm trying to just answer that with my own experiences. My sister, I touched base on my sister a little bit in the first video that actually brought about this question. So my sister passed away from lung cancer, and I didn't quit my job, but I took a leave of absence. My mom took a leave of absence. My dad came to visit. My aunt took a leave of absence from her job, and we took care of her. We helped her husband and her family, her children and everything, to take care of her. So many incidences had happened there that would very much so describe the spirit world. And I'll go through a couple of them, actually. So one day I was at the kitchen. I was washing dishes. It was just my sister was sleeping. Everybody else, her kids were asleep. Her husband was out of the house. And I was washing dishes. Her dog, his name was Bruce. Her dog came over to the back of me, and he put his head down, and he growled a little bit. I knew he wasn't growling at me. And he turned around, well, then his tail was wagging, but he was looking at a space beside me. And as he was looking at the space beside me, I smelled my grandfather's pipe tobacco. And I immediately was like, oh my God, I got to go check on my sister. I have to see. So I went around the corner really quick. My sister was in the living room. I went around the corner and she looked at me, and then she looked beside me, and her face just glowed. She had the biggest smile I have ever seen. She was looking at my grandfather, who was standing beside me at the time. And I just said, hey, beautiful. And, you know, she was so focused on my grandfather, who I couldn't see, but I knew he was there. He came to see her progress. He was there with her to help take her home. Prior to that incident, she had been in the hospital. She had to have a blood transfusion, and her husband told us that she had went into the restroom, and she came out of the restroom. He said she was just the happiest that he had seen her. She was just glowing. He said she was smiling. And he said, what happened in the bathroom? Like, why are you smiling so much? And she said, well, because God was in there, and God said, honey, you soon will be pain-free. And take that as you will. We were hoping for a different outcome, but, you know, higher powers, higher than us, know what's best, and we just sometimes have to accept that. So anyway, those are just some of my experiences, and I'm hoping that that answers the question that I was asked as to how can you have such a strong faith while you basically practice witchcraft, while you do ritual work, while you know, read your tarot cards. How can you still continue to have such a strong faith? And that's why, like, I know what my beliefs are as to how I can continue to do what I do. I touched again briefly on that first video, because these cards, I went to a tarot reader because my whole world had literally felt like it fell apart. And I went to a tarot reader, and she helped me. She helped me so immensely. And I think that's I went to her several times, and at one point she said to me, I'm not sure like why you're not doing this yourself, because you actually understand this, you understand it. And I was like, no, I really don't. And she said, yes, you do. After that, I went and I bought a deck, and it has actually reinforced my own beliefs, which perception is a lot. Perception is a lot in that could be an entirely other video, an entirely other subject. So perception, there's a saying, perception is 9/10 of the law, just like possession is 9/10 of the law, right? So your perception shapes your beliefs, your perception shapes your reality. My perception is there is a lot of things in these cards that actually helped me come back to having beliefs, because for a while I was really lost. And these cards did help me. And that's my firm belief. That is my perception. That is what happened, and I was there. I know what I believe. I'm not trying to make anybody else believe what I believe. I'm simply trying to show other people you can believe, and you're not a bad person if you decide that you want to do ritual work. It's connecting with yourself. Connecting with your ancestors, connecting with people who've come before, connecting with your own beliefs. And that's really what spirituality is about. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Any more, hit me up. I'll try my best.